Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to make some awesome 3D font and animate it. But before you get started, you want to know, you want to find some cool font, let's say. And the best place, I think, is if you just Google Fonts, it'll take you to this place. And by default, you have all these selections open. But let's say I'm just looking for some bold text. So I'm just going to look for like in the display category. And I like this font, so I'm gonna add that. I like, it's good to add a few because you can download them all at once. That's cool. And let's do this one. So I'm gonna open this pop-up menu and just say download. So it should download like a zip file, and you gotta unzip it if you're doing a Mac and extract. So now I have these .ttf files. So in Blender, we can delete our cube. Let me open my screencast keys. And we're going to Shift A, add a text object. And now I have this text here, and I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Right here there's an F, which means like it's meant to mean like this is our text information because it's a letter. And if I go to my downloads, one second. So I'm in my downloads, here's that font folder. Let's say I want to see what's in those folders. I'm looking at the levels down. Let's look at one level down. So I can kind of see what's in those folders. And then if I click these boxes right here, I can see like picture icons. So I want to try, I like this font. Kind of reminds me of the Star Trek. So there we have some cool text, cool font, but we want it 3D. All we have to do is in geometry, you can click and drag this extrude, or you can click the arrows, or you can type in like 1, which is way too big, so like 0.01. I'm just going to click and drag. So that's what extrude does, but these edges are pretty sharp. So let's see if we can bevel them and make it look even better. You don't always have to bevel, sometimes sharp is good. But if we increase our bevel depth, you can see what's happening is it's giving it like an edge. And then if we increase the resolution, it'll round that edge. At a certain point though, you can start to see that if you bevel things too far, you get edges that are intersecting. So use with caution, like even right there. Let's see if we add some resolution. So that kind of fixed it. You'll also notice some fonts in Blender do not work very well. So you got to test them out. The size of your font, you could scale this up, scale it down, but I like to use the size here. The sheer I rarely use. You could also, I've never tried underlining it. Italic, no. So right now the text will write from the left side to right, but you can center it. You can have it aligned to the right. You could, your letter spacing. So you could animate this property if you hit I right here and then go forward and then set that to 1. So now so I set 2 keyframes. I'm going to clear those keyframes and just leave it set to 1. So just, you can offset it on that. So there are vertical alignment top, center, bottom. I think that's what it was. So anyways, there are some ways you can modify the text in there, but to actually change the words, you have to go to edit mode, and I'm just going to hit tab, and then I'm going to write pro. Okay, so let's switch to cycles render, and now that we have this text, you can do some cool stuff. Let's let's first rotate it RX 90. So I'm rotating it on the 90-degree axis, and I'm gonna, give myself a light. I like sun lamps and area lamps. and I'm in cycles render, and I'm just rotating this light. And then if we give it that principled, so we're in the pro text thing, I'm going to just give it a principled shader. And here's kind of a preview. I tend to like plasticky looking objects, but now we have this pro tip. Let's see if we can get a good shine on it. Let's switch it to maybe area light. Yeah, so that's pretty neat. I'm in the world settings, you can brighten that up. So that is basically how you create some cool looking text. A couple things. The modifiers for that text, you can still add a few modifiers. Let's see what build does. So you can also reverse the build, so it basically is ripping faces, so that doesn't look that great. Okay, so let's say you wanted to animate this this text. Notice how it's scaling to the origin, so, and it also rotates around that origin. So if you're cool with that, then you can leave it. But if you want it to like scale from the center, you have to get that origin into the center point. And there is in your toolbar with T, there is a set origin origin to geometry. There's also a crazy shortcut, Control Shift Alt and C, and then you can set your origin to geometry, and now it scales from there. So let's say the best way to animate text is go to like when it's already built. If you want it to like, so let's say I'm happy with this position and rotation. So I'm going to hover over here and hit I and location, rotation, and scale. And then I'm going to go back to frame 1, and let's say I'll have it'll rotate at 180 degrees. It'll be scaled. Well, how about it'll come up from the bottom, and I'm going to hit S0 and then insert loc rot scale. So I built it kind of backwards. I know as it's going to come out like that. So one thing you can do that's might help your animation is let's go to the graph editor, and if we normalize all the graphs, this normalize button, it brings them all here, and let's change our interpolation mode. Let's you can go into key, interpolation, and there's all these choices. So let's try exponential, and notice how the curve changes. So it goes slow and then really fast. Or let's try quadratic. You can also do elastic. So this might work better if your keyframes are further apart. Or let's try bounce back. So it comes out and bounces back. So there's like a lot of tools. Let's try this. Okay, so I just rendered out all the frames, and if you go here, you can play your rendered animation. And so that's what it looks like. Boing.